The Syrian Civil War has been raging since 2011. The United Nations believes more than 400,000 people have died in the war. People displaced are measured in millions. Independent nation-states currently dealing death and destruction in Syria include Syria, Iran, Russia, Turkey, and the United States of America. The Islamic State is also killing people in Syria, but the organization is not considered a nation. But that's not for lack of trying. President Obama's two-part war plan in Syria incorporated launching airstrikes on Islamic State targets and providing combat assistance to Syrian rebel groups fighting to upend the Syrian government. President Trump ordered a missile strike on a Syrian government airbase in response to the Syrian government's airstrike on a rebel base in Syria this month. U.S. military action in Syria usually has something to do with energy pipelines.
Politico. Headline: McCain. Syria strike is 8 years in the making. Senator John McCain championed President Donald Trump's decision to launch an attack against Syrian government forces, calling the action the beginning of continued involvement in the region. This is a beginning, and a lot of hard things have to be done, but without this airstrike, those other things couldn't have been done either, the Arizona Republican said on MSNBC's Morning Joe. After all, it's been 8 years in the making.
The Syrian Civil War began in March 2011, 6 years ago. John McCain says the U.S. attack on the Syrian government has been in the making for 8 years. By my math, John McCain is talking about the year 2009.
News Limited. Headline: Is the fight over a gas pipeline fueling the world's bloodiest conflict? Before the Civil War, two competing pipelines put forward by Qatar and Iran aimed to transport gas to Europe through Syria. Qatar's plans were first put forward in 2009 and involved building a pipeline from the Persian Gulf via Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, and Turkey. World Net Daily says Syria is a key energy transit route to Europe. Syria is one of the most strategic locations for natural gas pipelines to flow to Europe. Qatar, home to the world's largest gas field along with Iran, has proposed a gas pipeline from the Gulf to Turkey that would traverse Syria to the Mediterranean, with the gas then being shipped to Europe. However, Assad in 2009 refused to go along with the plan, instead inking deals with Russia and Iran. Dubbed the Islamic Pipeline, the project may ultimately favor Russia and Iran against Western energy interests. If completed, the massive underground gas pipeline could drastically undercut the strategic energy power of U.S. ally Qatar and also would cut Turkey out of the pipeline flow. The potential for trillions of dollars of energy revenue in deals that snake through Syrian territory may be a motivating factor for the U.S., Russia, Turkey, and Arab states in the current Syria crisis.
U.S. passion for pipelines over and under Syria had endured for decades before Qatar's 2009 pipeline presentation.
Daily Mail. Headline: Secret 1983 CIA intelligence report suggested America should encourage Saddam Hussein to attack Syria to secure oil pipeline to Med and Gulf. America urged Iraqi President Saddam Hussein to attack Hafez al-Assad's Syria because of the closure of Iraq's oil pipeline, a secret 1983 intelligence report has revealed. The report, by former senior CIA official Graham Fuller, said the U.S. should consider urging Iraq to take the war to Syria, noting that Saddam was fighting for his life in the Iran-Iraq campaign. Through the closure of the pipeline, Mr. Fuller said Syria had a hammerlock on U.S. interests in both Lebanon and in the Gulf. The New York Times. Headline: Iraq abandons Syria pipeline. Syria shut off the Trans-Syria pipeline in April 1982 as it sided with Iran in the Persian Gulf War. Syria's official explanation was that the transit royalties it was receiving from Iraq were not sufficient to pay for the pipeline's upkeep. Baghdad interpreted the move as a reflection of hostility toward the regime of President Saddam Hussein. Central Intelligence Agency. Bringing Real Muscle to Bear Against Syria by Graham E. Fuller. September 14, 1983. Syria at present has a hammerlock on U.S. interests both in Lebanon and in the Gulf. through closure of Iraq's pipeline, thereby threatening Iraqi internationalization of the war. The U.S. should consider sharply escalating the pressures against Assad through covertly orchestrating simultaneous military threats against Syria from 3 border states hostile to Syria: Iraq, Israel, and Turkey.
The United States of America plotted wars against Syria because of an Iraqi oil pipeline in September 1983. In 1953, the United States and Great Britain conducted Operation Ajax to overthrow Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh and reinstall the King or Shah of Iran to leadership as a Western ally. President Richard M. Nixon established Saudi Arabia and Iran as the twin pillars of U.S. influence in the Middle East during the late 1960s. Iran battled Iraq from March 1974 to March 1975 as a twin pillars partner to the United States. Iranian citizens removed the Shah from power in 1979, ending Iran's reluctant twin pillars partnership with the United States. In 1983, while Iraq was at war with Iran, President Ronald Reagan tried to convince Iraqi President Saddam Hussein to attack Syria because Syrian President Assad closed the Trans-Syria pipeline. Senator John McCain says the U.S. missile strike against Syria this spring was in the making for 8 years, since 2009, when Qatar introduced its gas pipeline plans. By my math, John McCain is at least 26 years off. McCain's absent-minded math hardly matters, because pipeline plans in the Middle East have been an existential threat to Syria for decades.